One of the obvious hot topics in DC and kind of around the country that states and consumers are grappling with is AI and data centers. And there's a lot of reports and anecdotes that these data centers are using more energy than entire countries, and it's only going to get worse. And I think that there's a lot of concern, both from a consumer cost perspective, like what is this going to do to people's utility bills, but then also from an environmental footprint perspective, like if we care about reducing emissions globally, is this data center revolution and the energy hogs that they are only going to make matters worse?
So, great question, and I know it's top of mind for a lot of people because data centers, are being built in communities. They come with a lot of promise, don't always deliver the kinds of jobs that I think people would hope for. So that is a real kind of friction at the local community level. I want to take a step back and think about people first. Who's using the data, right? It's people. It's us. It's people and companies and people in those companies are increasingly using data and AI to really transform the way that we do business. And I'm old enough to remember when the internet hadn't yet been invented, and it came along and really transformed the way that we've worked in the world and expanded the world really exponentially. So now, this AI data center revolution is like that times 100 in terms of the potential. Change always brings with it some discomfort. I think some jobs will certainly get lost as a result of it. I think a lot of other jobs, for the most part, will get more efficient. Companies will get more competitive and innovative. I think there again, I think the opportunity far outweighs the kind of negative trade-offs of it. From an energy perspective, AI needs data centers need energy. Then the question is, what kind of energy are we going to deliver these data centers, and how clean can it be? And so there's, a lot of options here, right? I mean, one, data centers are getting more efficient. So while they're using more and more energy, they're also getting more and more efficient. And over time, they will use less and less energy on a per unit basis. Now they'll grow, so the overall pie will grow, but they're going to need baseload energy. So they're going to need new nuclear energy. And there's a nuclear renaissance in the United States and around the world around these small modular nuclear reactors, which are perfectly right-sized for a lot of these data centers. So if we can co-locate data centers with small modular nuclear reactors that are essentially fail-safe, so that if something happens, they just shut down as opposed to explode. It's not the technology that Chernobyl was, or it's not the technology that 3 Mile Island was. These are safe, modular, high efficient technologies. Back to like, how does the consumer benefit from that? I think we're gonna benefit a lot. There's definitely going to be some change. There's going to be some angst in that. Data centers use a lot of energy. They also currently use a lot of water for cooling, but you can recirculate that water. So this is where, I'm an eternal optimist, but every time that we've encountered a problem as a society, when we have economic freedom and the ability to avail capital markets, we can solve that problem. And so that's where I just have a lot of faith in people, a lot of faith in capitalism, a lot of faith in democracies and economic freedom. Those ingredients together, I think we can overcome most everything.
Yeah, I think that's right. If they are going to be using a lot of power, it should be the data centers and the companies paying for that power, not the consumers and socializing those costs to other people. And to their credit, I think a lot of data centers and companies are willing to do that. And so it is going to be more politically viable when we protect households and other businesses from any type of rate increases that we could see from the load growth from AI and data centers. Secondly, I think to your point about being optimistic, people are worried about the overall energy consumption, but I see this opportunity to deploy innovative technologies and bring those cost curves down of those innovative technologies. I mean, we've had relatively flat demand for electricity for the last few decades, and that means a lot of kind of the incumbent generation is kind of just sitting pretty for the most part. And we've had some displacement of coal for natural gas and increased wind and solar, but I think this is an opportunity where the private sector can take some risks into some innovative technologies. You talked a lot about SMRs and enhanced geothermal. These are companies where Amazon has a deal with X Energy to actually finance the SMR and take on that risk themselves. Google is doing the same thing with a small pilot project with enhanced geothermal and Fervo Energy. So you see companies saying, like, we still have our environmental concerns and our commitments that we want to uphold, and they're going to be the ones taking the risk, and we can do this without taxpayer-funded subsidies steering the capital towards these technologies. And I think that's ultimately how you bring the cost curves down of these technologies, so then they can be widely deployed elsewhere in the US and around the world. And then we also have to think about the energy efficiency that AI can produce. We've talked a little bit about energy efficiency. Well, there's so many energy efficiency tools that are derived from AI that can show you, where you do have, cold air coming in from your windows or from your attic, or you can have AI help determine where there are sticking points in the permitting processes. And so there's a lot of ways in which we can generate energy efficiency just from deploying AI. And so I see it as a tool to help reduce those energy savings you were talking about.
I think there again, it's like, I think we're at a huge building renaissance where we're seeing the need for more electricians and the need for more, contractors and people that, install in concrete and welders and steel. And it's really kind of the next industrial revolution because of the demand that AI is bringing.
Yeah, and all speaks to the need to get permitting reform, right? Because if we don't have the ability to actually supply and build those generating sources, then we're not going to create those jobs for all the industries that are going to need to build this power quickly.
Yeah.